I really recommend using Fujifilm's X RAW Studio to experiment with your custom settings. It's going to make this process a whole lot easier. So I want to give you an introduction to this free software in this video, show you what it is, how to install it, how to connect your camera, and a basic orientation.
You could experiment with these recipes on the back of your camera, going into the RAW converter and the playback menu, change some settings on an image you already took, process it and preview those changes, go back and make a few other tweaks, preview it again, and repeat this process for every image you want to experiment with. It's very tedious and not very effective on that small screen. X RAW Studio is a free software from Fujifilm that allows you to interface with that in-camera RAW converter, but on your computer on a large screen where you can navigate from photo to photo and apply different settings with the click of a mouse. It's much more efficient, and I'd really recommend you use it if you want to get the most out of this process. The only downside of it is you need to have the same camera model that was used to create the RAW files that you're working with. So if you have a collection of RAW files from an X-T2, you need an X-T2 available to plug into your computer because the program uses that RAW converter directly from your camera. It doesn't make a copy of it onto the computer since each camera RAW converter is different from camera to camera and will only work with those specific RAW files. So if you don't have this program already, head on over to Fujifilm's website to download it. There's a link in the notes for this video where you can do that. If you have any problems installing it, Fujifilm does have some pretty good detailed instructions about how to install it. Prior to using X RAW Studio with your camera, you'll need to do a little prep with your camera. The first is to ensure you have a proper USB cable. Cameras with a newer USB-C connector will need a USB-C cable that transfers both data and power, not just power. Same with the older micro USB connectors, they need to be a Type B, as in Bravo, that can transfer data using USB 3.0. If you don't have the correct cable, this process won't work, or if it does, it will be painfully slow. So make sure that you have the right cable first. Then we need to configure the connection mode in our camera. Tell it what we want it to do when we connect it to a computer. For the XH2, XH2S, and XT5, the newest Fujifilm cameras, you'll go into your network USB setting menu. For everyone else, it's in the connection setting menu. Go into your connection setting or connection mode, and we're looking for USB RAW converter. This will put the camera into the RAW converter mode. The other thing we need to do on newer cameras is turn off the power supply when using the RAW converter. If we don't do this, the camera will charge while it's connected to the computer, which might sound nice, but data transfer can really slow down or not even work at all. I've had some problems with this, with the program freezing or taking forever. So if you have this option, USB power supply, turn that to either off or power supply off on the newer cameras. This is what X RAW Studio looks like when you first open it up and have your camera connected to your computer. You'll see the camera information in the upper left with the firmware version and the battery level. If you don't see that, your camera is not properly connected. Check that you have the proper cable. It is indeed connected. The connection mode is set to the RAW converter and that the camera is turned on. There are 4 panels to be familiar with in X RAW Studio. Let's look at the panel on the left. At the top, like we said, you'll see your camera information. Then you have your folder explorer below that. This is where you'll navigate to the folder on your computer containing the RAW files that you want to experiment with. This program does not pull RAW files off of your camera. The RAW files have to be housed on your computer. Underneath that is some basic image info. You'll see a histogram and all of the metadata, including the image quality settings that were used when that photo was captured. You have a film strip on the bottom where you can filter images by displaying certain file types or sort them by date or name. You can rate them and filter by rating. I can press the number 3 on my keyboard and assign this a 3-star rating, or go up to 5 and back to 0. You can also choose to filter files by only showing the types of files that are compatible with the camera that is currently plugged in. Remember, you need to have the camera model that was used to create those RAW files connected to the computer in order to edit them. So you can filter compatible files with this icon, List Target File Only. Your image preview window is in the center. You can select full screen image preview. You can hide the other panels to make the image itself larger. You can click this icon to show you your before and after versions for the selected image. You can also zoom in and pan around the images using the tools on the upper right-hand side here with the different zoom levels or the magnifying glasses or the little hand to pan around. And then on the right side at the top, you'll see your profiles or custom recipes. Newer cameras will show you the custom recipes that are saved in the camera that you currently have connected to the computer. Older cameras won't show that. You'll just see the user profile bar that contains all of the recipes you've saved into X RAW Studio, but not your current camera. Below that is where your image quality settings are. We're going to be spending a lot of time here. This is what we're going to use to come up with our custom settings, and the options here are going to vary from camera to camera. The options for an X-T4 are shown here. You'll see in future demonstrations what these options look like with other cameras. It'll just mirror the image quality settings available in the connected camera. And in order to work on these custom settings, as mentioned, you're going to need a selection of RAW files on your computer. JPEG, TIFF, and HEIF files are not compatible with this process. You cannot experiment with them. So if you already have a bunch of RAW files and you have that camera, at least the same model camera that was used to create those RAW files, that's great. You're ready to start. If you don't have any RAW files, this is a great opportunity to go out and get some. If you need to ensure your image quality setting selected contains the RAW file, then just go out and get a wide variety of images to experiment with. If you're creating recipes for landscapes, get a variety of landscapes. Landscapes that were taken on sunny days in the middle of the day. Landscapes that were taken under overcast skies, maybe some that are taken under a forest canopy. But just get that variety, and you're going to want to have as much variety as possible in order to get the most accurate custom recipe that you can. Once you have the raw photos that you want to work with, I put them in an easy to find folder on my computer desktop. I don't want to have to go searching through some massive folder hierarchy on my computer in order to find photos that I want to work with. So I've just created a folder on my desktop called Raw Experiments, where I've copied photos from these different camera models and put them in a folder specific to that camera, which makes this whole process a lot more efficient. If you've never used X RAW Studio before, I'd really encourage you to download it and install it and get it ready for creating your own unique custom recipes. Be sure you have a good collection of RAW files to work with on your computer, and we'll see how to start running our experiments next.